Shouldn't take too long. Most of what we have to do is to turn you guys loose to do your labs. But here's one. Two bites meet. The first bite asks, "Are you ill?" The second bite replies, "No, I'm just feeling a bit off." Boom, boom. Um, and let's do another one. Um, there's a band called 1023 Megabytes. They haven't had any gigs yet. I thought both of those were moderately good. I was in a joke off last night with a bunch of high school students, and we had a whole bunch of good ones, and I forgot to save them. So I apologize. I will think about them and see if we can come up with some of them at least before the test, but maybe later. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about today before we get into lab. Um, some housekeeping things. So this is the last topic for the class. This is the last lab of the last topic. So at this point, at the end of this, we have a test on Monday, and then we immediately go into our presentations. The study guide has been updated. I think that's current. I haven't changed it since Tuesday's class. I did promise you that I would upgrade the Tensorflow readings. So this is what I want you to read now. Let me see. Where are we? Got to reconfigure here just a little bit. There we go. So in the TensorFlow tutorial, I can see it, but you guys can't. In the TensorFlow tutorial for the reading material, what I would like you to read is and of course I'm on the wrong window. Here we go. What I would like you to read is I'd like you to read the basics down through training loops. So this will cover a lot of this stuff in more detail than what we talked about before. So, know this material from TensorFlow basics all the way down through training loops. If you want to go on beyond that, that is fine. But this will get you any material that I'm going to ask you about will be doable with just what's in this TensorFlow basics. And then read the Keras down through training and evaluation with the built-in methods. After that, we'll kind of, saving and loading is cool, and working with pre-processing layers is cool. But I think if you can get down through the training and evaluation with the built-in methods, that should be everything you need to know to have a decent understanding of TensorFlow. So that's what we're going to, come on, go there. There you go. So here's, just a simple training example. And if you do this, and then what we taught you in the lab that you're going to do today, you should be in really good shape for your test on Tuesday, which I have about 40% figured out and 0% written. But I'm hoping to end that 0% fairly quickly. The hard part is figuring out what I want to ask, and the easier part is actually writing it once I get the chance. So make sure that you have this material. Make sure, as we're talking about the test, one thing I do want you to make sure of is, this is an open book test from the standpoint that anything that we've used before, you're welcome to use again. I don't really want you going out and getting answers from Stack Overflow. That's beyond what is allowed for this class. I know there's always that temptation, but anything else, anything in these notes that we've worked on, you are welcome to download. Don't go Googling for answers during the tests, but this material is all fine. What I'd recommend is have a update of the repository. Pull an update of the repository Tuesday morning. Have it available to you. Have all of your labs available to you, and be able to go into those directories and work on that material. So if you do that, that should be pretty good. I did update rainbow grades. We were hoping to get up through lab 8. We are almost there. Lab 8 has been fully reviewed. We're not or fully evaluated, and now we're just going back and taking our standard evaluation just to make sure everything is correct. We go through a marking phase, and then we go through an evaluation phase. So I expect that'll be done this afternoon, and once it is, we will update Rainbow grades with the current labs. You probably won't have Lab 9 before Lab 10 is due. Sorry about that, but there's just only so much we can do. But you should have a good idea for at least the first 8 of your labs. Friday the 23rd, we start final, and that should say final presentations. There we go. Friday 4/23, we start final presentations. So, we're going to have our test on Monday. We're going to start final presentations on Thursday. Hopefully this got updated, but we will give it a shot. I did put together a final presentation guidelines. Let me see if I can head there. So hopefully I have this right. I'll take another look at it because I was kind of rushing to get all of this done today. But if you come into our repository and go down into the resources, Sorry, I tried pushing earlier and didn't notice the error message that said you have to pull first. So I'm pushing that out. Okay, so if we go to our class here, we come down into resources, you come down into the final report.md. The project final report should be a more in-depth presentation of what you had and more complete presentation of what you had during the interim report. So what I want you to do is I'm going to appear in the corner so that you guys can feel like you're being talked to, not a disembodied slides. Make sure you give me your project title, the team members. These are worth about 10 points a piece out of 100. So do them; they're important. 10 points a piece out of 100 for the project, for the report itself. Right, the report is separate from your actual open source contributions. This is how well you get up there and talk about your project, how well you can explain your project. Do you have a good conception of how to create an open source community? Those are the things we're looking for here. We are interested in your contributions, and we are interested in your progress, but they are not the only considerations we have on this on the presentation part, right? The presentation is separate from the quality or the amount of your contributions and progress. So you have your project title and your team members. Describe the project and the specific goals for this semester. So for Yaks, for example, if you were working on something like Yaks, Yaks has a pretty overarching, or Quacks even has a pretty overarching goal of replacing SIS, for example, with a visual, easier to use course scheduling software, right? So that's what the overarching thing is, and I would expect more than a couple of words on that, right? Give me a paragraph or give me a slide that discusses it in some detail. And then the specifics for this semester is maybe you want to change all the red buttons green. right? So there's this hierarchy. What is the project overall trying to accomplish, and then what is the specific things you want to achieve for this semester? Or maybe for quacks, it might be automate the acquisition of data from the registrar, so that there's no human intervention required to update semesters. That would be a smaller goal within the large goal of what the project does. Make sure you give me both of those, right? You got to remember that I have just a few minutes to go in and listen to what you're doing and remember what your project was about, and then evaluate what it was, what you accomplished. If all you do is you give me the details that I went through and I changed all these buttons green, I have no idea of what the context is. And no one else will either. Your presentation should be written to stand on its own without anybody having to come in and understand or know what your project currently is. What your project was before. Project organization, these are the open source parts of it, right? We want to know, are you using a blessed repository? What knowledge do you assume people coming in have? Do you have a contributions guideline? If you don't have a contributions guideline, do you have a reason for not having it? One person on the project, that's a good reason not to. Just starting out, that's a good reason not to, but explain at what point you might want to start getting into some of these other artifacts. Do you have a code of conduct? All of these things that are good community builders, all I want to know is that you thought about them, and that whatever things you decided to pick or not pick, you had a reason for it. That you didn't just do nothing because you didn't want to, or that you were lazy. That okay, we didn't do a contributors guideline because we were working very hard on making the system easy to install, and we felt that an easy to install system with less documentation, less in the way of contributor guidelines, would be a more easy place to get started than something with more text and less and harder to install. So this is what I'm looking for, and the converse might be true as well. We didn't want to work too much on encapsulating an easy to install system because we didn't know what components we were going to have. So instead, we recorded our steps in a README file or in a getting started file. And once we get that done, we will work on optimizing and improving our ability to do throughput on that. Okay, so those are the types of things we want in project orientation. Progress to date, I'm going to skip contributions for right now. Progress to date should be, what did you do? What did you accomplish out of the things you promised you were going to accomplish, or out of the things you intended to accomplish? And this can be, in broad strokes. And this can also be, we were attempting to do X, but we got sidetracked when the technology Y we were trying to use did not work as expected, and we reconfigured ourselves. And this is the steps we went through to get around that problem, and this is what we ended up doing. That's progress, even if it seems lateral. Even if it doesn't necessarily contribute to the end goals of your project, doesn't seem to contribute to the end goals of your project, these types of things are important. So make sure you kind of get those in. The final thing is contributions. I want to know that everybody contributed, and I want to know that everybody contributed in two different ways. From the standpoint of I want to know, from the standpoint of the macro. At larger scale, I want to know what you worked on. If these were the goals for the semester, if the project was this, right, and the goals for the semester were this, what part of that was you? Pretty simple. You need to differentiate this from any work you did for another course or for independent study, right? But that's really what I want to see on the contributions side. And that make sure you differentiate should probably be under contributions, because that's unique to each individual, not necessarily to each project. And then at the end of your presentation, I would like everybody to attach one slide that you don't have to go over. You can refer to it if you want, or if you want to look at it. But I want links to all the contributions you made during the semester. And the idea will be that when I'm doing the final grading on the project, you'll be able to update that, keep it updated through the end of the semester. You can continue working until the last week of classes. We'll tell you, we'll give you a drop dead deadline. So even after you've presented, if you present next Friday, you have another week essentially to get all of your contributions in. But at the end of it, I want a summary of all your contributions, because I'm going to have to go out and find everything, artifacts, things backing up that you actually did what you said you did. And if I can't find them, I can't give you the grade you deserve. So I want a listing of your own contributions. And if you want to see what something like that would look like, we'll just do a quick one, right? If we go over and look at me, actually, we don't want to look at me here. We want to go over to this, and then we can come in maybe and go to settings. Or insights, sorry. I'm clicking all over the place incorrectly today. And we want to look at commits. Or contributors. Here we go. This is what I want to see, right? I want to see something like this where I can go in and I can just click on a link and it takes me to all of the changes. Like, for example, that I apparently misspelled include in. I don't even know where that is. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I added this entire file. Yeah, that makes more sense. All right, so we can go in and do something like that. So, at a minimum, if you give me a list of just these links, all of which point to your commits, issues you opened and or commented on, tests you ran, wiki pages you created or edited, anything that you would put in the open, appropriately licensed. Remember, in order for your contributions to count, they have to be open source. I guess that's really about it. Anything you contributed to an open source project. It doesn't necessarily have to only be this project, by the way, so long as, again, you don't double dip and count it for two different classes. And let's just go in one final thing. Here we go. Back to the master one more time. What I'm looking for is about 15 minutes. I would like it to be less than 15 minutes rather than more 15 minutes. So if you want to try for 12, that would be good. If you look, I put spaces in here without realizing that spaces aren't going to actually show anything. If you look, we have 18 projects represented here. There are a couple people I still don't know if they have a project or if they plan to, which is not a good situation to be in right now. So please, if you haven't contacted me, please contact me. What I would like to do is I would like to get through approximately 6 a day. So if we do that, we run 3 times 6, we get through all 18 in the first 3 days. What I would like is the next 8 people to prepare. So I'd like down through 00009 Scheif to be prepared for the first day. This is in case there are any unavoidable technical or other issues that would keep us from actually completing. So this class runs an hour and 50 minutes or 110 minutes. If everybody stays at 15 minutes, that gives us 90 minutes. That gives us 20 minutes of slack. I will obviously take up a little bit of that talking about this, and I'll give you more guidelines for your final your open source contributions. Again, we'll talk about that at the beginning of one of these other meetings, probably on Friday. But that means that if something horrible goes wrong, we can still get through our 6 because we had 8 people prepared to go. But with that in mind, we probably won't go down below Schiff on next Friday. And then depending on, who else, that we will pick off the next 6 to present, the next 8 to prepare, and then we'll finally end it up. And this should be in the opposite orientation, opposite order that we had coming into this. Okay, now that's all I think I had. Are there any questions? And I think I saw a few go by. And yes, I'm waiting for my chat to open. Yeah, chat. Test is on Tuesday, not Monday, right? Yes, absolutely. My bad. It's at this time. If you are in one of our alternate time zones, and you need an alternate time, please contact me. It's not automatic. If you contact me and say that 12:20 is 2:20 your time, 2:20 p.m. your time, I'm not gonna. You gotta take. You can get in there. You can stay 2 hours later or something. But for major issues with time zones, we'll give you some break. The other part of that is, let's see, we'll run it the same way we ran it before, right? I will open it up for a certain amount of time, probably 3 hours. I think I'm going to target this for an hour and a half test. We'll open it up for 3 hours. You'll have to finish it within, you'll have to start and then finish within any 90-minute period within that 3 hours, just like you did before. And it'll be all on Submiti the way the last one was. We skipped a lab, right? So the drop lowest still part of the grade. Yes. I don't penalize you guys by deciding which lab you're going to drop. So yeah, we dropped the statistical module and the statistical lab. So statistical will not be on the test. We will, however, still drop your lowest lab grade. So instead of having 1 point per lab, it's 1.11 or something like that. Yeah, each lab is worth 1.11 instead of 1 point instead of 1. Okay. Yes. So Rory, in your presentation, at the end of the presentation, as like an appendix, you can, or you're welcome to refer to that if you'd like, but you don't need to refer to that, and you're welcome to update that up through whatever date I give you as the drop dead date for getting your contributions in, or for letting me know what your contributions were. Okay? That makes sense? Awesome. Any other questions? Any questions about the test? You guys should be pretty familiar with this test format by now. So hopefully everything is pretty much handled. All right. As long as I'm here. So our lab today, I think, is a fun one. I think I've said this a lot of times, so it's probably losing some of its believability. But basically, we're just going to work with Keras. We're going to set up a neural network. We're going to set up a neural network that takes pictures of clothing and classifies them. And once we've worked through all of the example that's in TensorFlow, all of that stuff is in TensorFlow. What I'm going to ask you to do is go out and find some examples of clothing in the categories that we've trained on. I think there's 9 categories. I know there's 9 categories. And you should find some examples of those categories. Okay, so now that I'm saying that, I'm sitting here thinking, is it 9 categories, 1 relative, or 9 categories, 0 relative? Regardless, once you've done this, right, and this should work because this is directly an exercise from their own example. Once that works, I want you to look at getting some of your own examples in. So, for example, these are 3 of my attempts. I picked 3 shirts from LL Bean. This one showed up as a shirt. this one showed up as a coat, and then this one showed up as a shirt. And if you look, right, the difference seems to be how delineated this sleeve was. So I'm not really sure what that, it's hard to tell what a neural net trains on. But it looks to me like it's in this chest area. It's the lack of variation that's causing it to come out as a coat instead of a shirt, or a jacket instead of a shirt. So it would be interesting to go in here and doctor it and see whether we could get it to show up as a shirt again. Maybe I'll play with that a little bit. Anyway, go ahead and do this. It's a good lab. What you're going to find is that following their directions is relatively easy. Actually getting data from the web and not messing it up, right? You need to maintain aspect ratio. You need to crop it to the proper size. It's expecting 28 by 28 pixel images. You need to put it in the right form. It needs to be scaled between 0 and 1, and it needs to be black is white and white is black. It needs to be inverted as far as grayscale goes. So there's a lot of work that you need to do to get this curated. And in order to get good results, it has to be curated correctly. So feel free to use my images to test out your stuff, but that's not a substitute for getting your own. Anyway, there you go. I guess the final thing is if you want to try to test your stuff, I put in my shirt pictures, right? I had to in order to put them into the document. And I also put in the small version of that, which is here, but that's not everything that needs to be done. I still think this is 0 to 255 instead of 0 to 1, 0 to 1, and it's not inverted as far as color goes. So anyway, get started, have fun. It should be a good, and there we go. Jeremy Max. I don't think I mentioned there was something else in the TensorFlow tutorial, but I did mention that I changed I promised you last class that I would update the README part, the material you should read. And what I said was you need to do TensorFlow basics down through the training loops stuff, and then Keras down through training and evaluation as reading material. It's not, I think that the example may be included with that, but that's essentially what you should be able to do. All right. That should now be in the new slides for today. I pushed a new version of the slides, I hope, and the new version of the slides on page 3 has the updated reading material. So it's a good thing I went back. It's a good thing for you guys that I went back and took a look at it. What I was going to have you read as I started reevaluating some of it, it was just a lot of reading on stuff that I can guarantee I'm not going to test you on, because it's there's enough here in these first sections for me to, this will give you a good start. You will know how to use TensorFlow, and then you'll know where the guide is for getting additional information. All right. We'll hang out till 10 after 2, not 10 after 1. If you have any questions, please let us know. Please try. One of the things that I've noticed is that, we get people having problems later in the week, and then sometimes the labs don't show up as good as it would be to have. This is a really good time. We've got Jeremy, Kevin, Hunter. We're all kind of hanging out here. So, this is a good time to get through as much of this lab as you can. You should be able to get through pretty much all of it. At least if I would have stopped talking a half an hour ago, you would be able to. So you should be able to get through a significant, substantial portion, possibly all of this. Certainly the intention is for all of this. So there's less reason to have issues with your system later on. We can help you out here. We'll do our best. All right. Thanks. Let's see. I think what I'll do is I'll pop the lab up into the chat. This activities thing is not working anymore as far as I can tell. Let's see, where is that lab now? There we go. That does give you a feeling of power, doesn't it? That add announce.